right. So this is the first episode, right, more or less, of our mini podcast series starring Jellyfish KE, Jelly FF, and Jelly LO. Wow. And we have our two guest interviewees taking IB, James and Omar. Okay, you want to go first, James? You want to go first?
Yeah, so my name is James and I go to school in Hong Kong. I take the IBDP. I take pretty hard subjects that I don't like math HLA, physics, all the hard stuff.
I see.
And there's not much else to say, really.
All right. And as for
What
the
is your third
introduction-
HL?
What is my third HL? Computer science.
Computer
Yay.
science. I see. All right.
Yeah.
So, and as the introduction for Omar, what do you want to say about yourself?
I also go to school in Hong Kong. Same as James. I named my dog after myself. My dog's name is Omar. And I don't take IB. I take GCSE.
Are you planning on taking IB?
I kind of have to unless I want to take B Tech, but I don't want to do that.
I see. All right. So, moving on to our first set of questions, right? I think I'm gonna ask, right, Omar, what subjects do you plan on taking?
For IB,
Yes.
I'm not 100% sure, but I'm definitely leaning to the way of taking two HL sciences. And then
Okay.
the third one, I don't know. Maybe that'd be math, maybe that'd be English or history.
What do you plan on doing with your I guess career path then? Because if you're doing two sciences, right, then that sounds like more of a STEM kind of student thing, right?
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So what do you plan on doing with your career choice after high school?
There's a variety of things I could do with it. I'm
So
not
you haven't really
quite-
decided yet?
There's a few branches I consider, but I'm not really dead set on one right now.
Are you more lenient towards the medical side or the engineering side?
Engineering.
I
Okay.
see. And what about you?
Engineering and research.
Okay. Okay. So what about you, James? Oh, currently you said what was your entire schedule, if you can remember it, for IB?
My entire schedule.
Mhm.
So I do HO physics, math AA, and computer science. Then I take SL Spanish B, SL English Langlet, and SL history.
Okay. And how is this going to reflect in your career path after high school? Like, do you have a plan for that?
I mean, after high school, I'll go to university, and I'll probably go into something to do with computer science, whether that be programming or just straight up making computers. I'm not sure, but I'm definitely leaning more to the computer science side.
Do you have anything?
Yeah,
What's up, Jelly FF?
I think doing robots would be cool. Sounds cool.
Yeah, like artificial intelligence is really cool as well. We
Yes,
study that
yeah.
in IB.
They're really quirky.
Okay. Well.
Do you have any place in mind for university? Would you like to stay in Asia or maybe travel somewhere else?
Or stay in Hong Kong.
Going to the UK would be nice. I think I pretty much can't go to the US anymore because I didn't take the SATs because I was too lazy.
Oh yeah.
But UK is probably my main choice right now.
I see. Okay.
Are you just
about
gonna
you?
study do you plan on just studying in UK, or are you planning on going UK with the IB diploma and then going somewhere else, or do you plan on settling in UK after you finish studying there, if you get there, right?
Well, after I finish studying, I'm gonna have to go look for a job. So
You'll just go wherever that takes you.
I have no idea. Yeah, I'll just go where that takes me. I mean,
Alright.
jobs can be anywhere around the globe, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So, Omar, you said that you plan on being more science related, right? In the IB, in your IB course, right?
Yeah.
do you plan on taking, like, let's say, for example, like the EEs, right? Like the extended essays and stuff like that. Do you plan on writing that about sciences as well? One of the sciences as well, since you're taking two of them?
Probably.
Okay. And how about you, James?
Most
You're gonna do one on what's your plan on that one for your EE?
For my EE,
Mhm.
yeah, we're getting more information about that in 2 days. But from what I've heard, I heard that you can combine two subjects, and that's something that I think I'm gonna do. I think I'm
Yeah,
gonna do that
okay.
with history
So-
and physics.
I see. History and physics. Do you have like
Yeah.
a really specific history and physics area that you plan on looking at?
Kinda. I just kind of want to look at Chernobyl because
see.
it's just interesting to me.
Okay, so obviously this year has been, or like this year more or less, kind of ending of last year. You know, everyone knows the big old pandemic, the big old virus, right? You kind of skewed things, right? They kind of ruined people, especially for people who are starting IB this year, right? Like
Oh yeah.
like Omar, what grade are you guys in, or like?
Well, for me, I'm in year 10. That might not really be the same as your year 10 or grade 10, but I'm in year 10. in
So
Hong
then
Kong.
I think just to clarify, right? That means in your year 10 you take the IB program in 2 years,
Yeah.
and then as for James, you're starting the IB program, right? This year.
Yeah, just started 6 months ago.
So exactly. So since COVID really did change the environment, especially for this year's juniors in comparison to like other year juniors, because they could attend physical school, right? I'd like to ask, like, what's your opinion on how this virus has changed your educational life? Yes. As IB students.
Well, it's definitely affected us a lot. I mean, it was the start of the pandemic. The pandemic happened towards the end of my GCSEs, so it's been happening for a while now. But it's just been really tough to study. Like most of
So you
the
think it'd be
learning.
easier if it was in person?
Yeah, because
Do you
most
think
of the
do you
learning
think
you
that
have-
applies to all subjects or only some subjects? Do you think some subjects are like, it doesn't really matter if it's online or physical, or do you think like all subjects just like would be easier if it was in physical?
My hard subjects are definitely a problem online.
Right?
Is there anything
Wouldn't you-
specific in those subjects that make it hard?
Well, by the hard subjects, I mean like the ones
HLs.
I and other people find hard, like math AHL and physics HL.
Similar to you, I'm also taking two sciences and math HL. And wouldn't you think that this whole online school learning could be beneficial as we're more time flexible and get more time to study? Because we're cutting down on all like travel time. I don't know about in Hong Kong, but for it's definitely a big factor as sometimes you spend 3 to 4 hours just traveling from school and back.
Well, over here, my personal travel time is about an hour, and the real downer in online learning is just motivation to study, because
I see.
a whole day it feels like you're doing studying since you're on your desk listening
Yeah.
to a teacher, you know?
Uh-huh. Regarding
It's
that,
different
how is true. How is the situation in Hong Kong right now? Because some countries, like in Singapore, they've actually opened back up to physical school, and like here in the Philippines, we're still in online learning. How is Hong Kong?
Well, Hong Kong just had like another wave. Yeah, go ahead.
I hear that some schools go back next week,
Next
but
week?
that's not confirmed. I don't know. That's just what I've heard. But
I see.
for the school I go to, the staff have only really said that we're gonna probably stay at home until Chinese New Year, probably. But they didn't give anything hard facts. They just
Because
gave it
I also heard that, right. I think I've heard that in Hong Kong, right? You guys have been on and off in hybrid, right? So like a while back you guys were hybrid, but then you guys swapped back to completely online, and then you went back to hybrid, like a few times depending on how many waves, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so then, well, what's your take on this, Omar? Since right now James is taking the IB program, you're planning on taking it, but you're in IG,
IGCSEs.
IG, yes, that. So
IGC.
IGCSE, right? So since you're taking that, right, that's more or less preparation for the IB program, right?
Nah, they don't. Some of the stuff they teach you doesn't really apply as
Okay.
much for IB, but it kind of does because it kind of gets you more acclimated to like exams and studying.
All right.
And-
So with this COVID thing, right? Would you both of you what would you say? Like, do you think it's more negative or more positive or like neutral to you guys, affecting you guys personally in terms of education?
In terms of education, I would say negative.
I would say quite negative.
Right. So, but who do you think would have it worse, right? Like the people who's like, let's look at James' perspective in comparison to Omar's perspective. Who do you think has it like worse at the moment? Someone who starts IB with this COVID situation, or someone who is not starting IB yet but is going to while this COVID situation is up?
I think it's worse for James because, well, IB has a bigger impact on your university choice than IGCSE. Universities don't really put too much looking into it. They focus more on your IB scores, so yeah, I think it matters more for James.
All right. So with that
Yeah,
said,
I agree.
how long do you think this COVID thing will happen? Because if I remember correctly, right, wasn't there like a recently in the news that there was something to do with Britain, like another strain, like a mutated strain in Britain or something?
No, it's the same virus. It's just that I think it has a slightly higher infectious rate, but otherwise it's the exact same. All of the treatments for it work just fine, and the vaccine that's coming out works for that as well. It's just that it's more infectious.
I see. So, how long do you think, like, you both think that this pandemic is gonna last for now?
Well, the way it's going, it looks like it's gonna, at the very least, carry on until the end of the half year. But I think it's probably gonna go on until June at the bare minimum.
But realistically, then, what do you guys think?
Maybe September.
September? All right. Well then, but
I say
like
September.
September this year. You think it's gonna carry on for September this year, realistically?
If things go at the current rate they are right now, yeah, because I think there's a vaccine coming out, but I also think I don't know if how much of an impact that vaccine is going to make at first. It'll take time for people to get it, and people who don't get it are still going to get the virus. So I still feel like the lockdown is still going to keep on, at least for a few more months after the vaccine comes out. But I think it'll end around somewhere around the midway point of this year, maybe a bit later.
Okay.
Around that time, the batch 2021 would be done with IB. Do you think their exams would be cancelled, or will it still be held?
If I remember correctly, last year they continued their exams, but in an extremely secluded environment, and that was during around the downturn of a wave. So it depends. If the situation when it happens this year is worse than when it happened last year, I think there's definitely a possibility because they were really close to canceling.
Yeah.
Yeah,
do you
didn't
think universities? Sorry, go ahead.
I was gonna ask, like, didn't they cancel some like SAT tests as well, right?
Yeah, they canceled a lot of standardized testing, and I think a lot of universities were understanding of that. And do you think that universities would be like understanding if, let's say, the current batch of like average grades would be like dropped? Do you think universities would be more understanding and accepting of students regarding the situation?
I mean, pretty sure they'd have to, because while a lot of the top universities' acceptance rates are really low, they're never zero.
Yeah.
So no matter how bad an entire batch does, they will always have to accept some students.
Hmm.
It's just a matter of how flexible they are with that number, I think.
Hmm.
All right. Well, does any of the other jellies have any questions concerning like the IB education with COVID at the moment? If not, I think we'll focus on a different pillar of health.
Yeah,
You get
actually.
my. All right. All
We're
right.
good.
So
Yeah.
I guess
yeah.
we can come back to this in a bit if anyone has any extra questions. But I want to ask, right, as IB students, how is this environment, right, this COVID pandemic lockdown environment affecting your social lives?
I mean, Omar, you're mainly on PS, right?
You mean like in my spare time? Yes.
Yeah, socially. So
Yeah.
has it
pretty much.
affected you? Because it hasn't really affected me.
I'm sure for like the more introverted people, right? I would assume that like socially it wouldn't really affect them, obviously, because they're more inclined to stay indoors anyways, right, and not really go out and like try to socialize, right? But obviously, I think like for the more extroverted people, that's definitely a complete turn on the like this pandemic thing. They won't be able to see like people that they hang out with or like spend time around, outdoors and stuff. But from what it sounds like Omar and James, you guys are both more inclined to be introverted or like spend time alone or at least online. Is that so?
Well, I technically broke a quarantine about 2 times.
That's nice. I do
No,
that too.
no, but
Oh
it
yeah.
wasn't
Okay.
really.
You wanna
Well,
explain this? You wanna explain this time these 2 times
Yeah.
you broke the quarantine?
It happened in May, and then it happened again in I think it was either August or September. I think.
You
around there.
wanna develop why you broke these?
But because I wanted to go play airsoft, and I needed to do something physical because
He's making it sound
Cass?
bad. He didn't break quarantine. He just went out the house.
Hmm.
no, yeah, but it's the fact that I was spending it with a lot more than the bare minimum amount of people you're allowed to. But
Oh,
that was only for when I was in transit. The second I got to the place, that was private property, so the rules just stopped applying. So until I got there, I was technically breaking the rules.
How did it feel to be
Be a bad
breaking
boy.
the rules? Whoa. Okay, whatever. How does it feel to be breaking the rules and a rebel to society's laws and regulations?
I don't know.
Are we allowed to be saying this?
I mean, I can always.
It also happened the third time. I also ran into some cops, but they didn't seem to care. So
Nice.
Bro.
it was on a bridge, and there was a lot of people on the bridge.
Hmm.
A lot.
Yeah, there's a lot of bad things that happen
Almost.
on bridges.
So why did you guys decide to do airsoft? Did you do air? It was both the times for airsoft.
Yes.
But
Well,
why
the
do you-
third time was but
Alright,
2 times.
So why did you decide to do airsoft out of like all the anything else?
Because, well, first of all, airsoft, non-contact. I could just shoot someone. That's okay. But also, I don't know. I just felt like doing airsoft instead of just talking to people and having food with them.
Okay,
Hmm.
okay.
That's how I felt.
And what is your opinion on this, James? Do you think this is acceptable for Omar to be doing such things?
I mean, I went to.
Oh, you too are a
But,
rebel. Are you also a
But
rebel?
the thing is, right? The thing is, I don't know why he's putting it like that. We did not break quarantine or anything. It was just normal, and we sanitized very often.
Oh yeah. So
I
what did you
did
go?
Yeah.
Out?
not even one time, but okay.
What's okay?
What
So
the heck,
James,
bro?
what did you go out for?
Where did I go? Well, I went out for airsoft, but I also went out to with my friends to a mall a few weeks back,
Really?
and they've also been going on hikes weekly for their CAS project.
Oh yeah.
So, actually, one thing I've noticed is that quarantine is actually, I think, it's making the students in my year go out more because they can. They feel. I think it's because they feel restricted.
Do you think that
So they
applies
wanna do it.
worldwide too, or just in like specific environments? Like for other, let's say, IB students who are also, or students in general around the world that are in quarantine. Do you think the thing that's happening with your classmates and peers that are you said quarantine is making them go out, right? Do you think that because of the quarantine, like, do you think other students would also be like that, or do you think that's just something that happens to only around, or like some people?
I think it's just our very specific year. I think it's maybe just IB students because
I mean,
Does
I
that
went
matter,
out.
Omar?
I went out 4 times. 3 of them were over the limit of how many wishes would be with the public. But some other people I could see online, they were definitely going out a lot more than they should have, and they're definitely spending it in a lot more dangerous places. So
Okay, so then I have so then is hearing all of that. As you go out, you probably have a higher chance, and you risk yourself to being infected with COVID, right? I'd like to ask, do you guys have anyone or know how many people have like in your year, or like anyone close to you that has been affected with COVID, has
0.
contracted the disease?
0, but
Zero.
recently, last week, there was a case of corona reported in my apartment building, but I don't know.
How
Nothing's
does that make
happened
you
since
feel?
then.
Are you insecure now, or do you feel like your
Well,
your,
I
your safety
haven't-
bubbles is broken?
I have not left my house in about 2 weeks, so no. So I should not have gotten it in any way. So I think I'm fine.
All right, that's good for you, James. I wanted to ask you, like you said earlier, with the restrictions of COVID making you want to go out more, right? And you said at least to IB students, or at least people in your year, right? You know how CAS has like 3 pillars that we kind of have to solve, right? The creativity pillar, the service pillar, and the activity pillar, right?
Yeah.
So the activity pillar really circles around like physical activity, right? So with the restrictions, right? Do you think this is a more of a downside on like limiting the options for filling out that activity pillar in the CAS requirements?
Nah.
No?
I mean,
do you think it's helping then, or do you think it's like not really changing anything?
it's definitely not helping, but it's not making people stop doing activity.
Right, but then how about like many other sports clubs, right? I don't know if you guys do any sports particularly at your school. Like if you join any sports team, I mean, but right, let's say like some school teams aren't able to participate in between school matches or tournaments because of this COVID restriction, right? Because they don't want mass gatherings, and then that also removes the possibility, since we're mostly are all online for schooling, we might not really have a consistent time to practice physically, right? For like, let's say, football or basketball. And stuff like that, right? So then that removes that kind of pillar or like a source of source to like fulfill the cast requirement pillar of activity, right?
Yeah.
So even with that in mind, right, do you still think COVID like doesn't really affect it negatively as much? You think like there's still like enough or like an abundance of chances for them to fill up the activity pillar in the CAS requirements?
To be fair, I don't do any of those sports, so
Mhm.
I may just not be noticing it, but a lot of people in my year are just either doing hikes, a home workout, or continuing practice like normal. They don't really seem to be
Really?
restricted that much.
They still
Yeah, just not
some
actually in school,
uh-huh.
but like in their own time, they're still managing to do practice.
But the school don't you think would have like more organized or regulated equipment and stuff, and they do those people who do like home practices for their sport, right, do they have their own like equipment, or do they just like makeshift DIY it?
I mean, I don't know anyone that's done their
You
their
just heard about
sports
it.
at home. I've heard of them, yeah.
Okay.
And I do know one person, also called James, who has basketball practice every Monday with his team and a coach in some random basketball court in Hong Kong, somewhere in like Lantau Island.
Okay, well, I want to ask now this, James, if you were that James doing the basketball thing, would you continue to practice like basketball in like a in like a basketball court with a team or something like that, or do you think like you wouldn't risk it for COVID or something?
I don't think he really cares, but
If he contracts it.
no, not if he contracts it, but I think that. Well, he's going to the US in a couple days, so he's trying to be careful, but he's also not. I haven't heard of him skip basketball practice because he was scared of the virus.
All right. Well,
He's probably
what if you
just
were
wants to
what if
play.
you were in his shoes, right? Like you really wanted to play not really wanted to play, I guess, but you have a commitment to basketball, right? And then you have the opportunity to practice with a team at a basketball court and stuff like that. Do you think you would take it, considering the risk of COVID?
I wouldn't. I definitely wouldn't. But the thing is, he's like a semi-pro. He plays on a real team, so I can see why he'd continue.
Okay. Yeah. All right. That makes a good point. Let's see. Omar, how would you do if you were in the James' shoes, like in case of basketball? What would you do there?
Kind of hard to say because I don't really do sports.
Right. Yeah, but let's just like imagine for a moment, right? That you're in James' shoe. You like to play. Or well, I don't know if I don't know if he does like to play, but just you have a commitment to a team, right? And you have the opportunity to practice it, right? Would you also practice it considering the risk of COVID, or would you just pass up on that?
I would still go to practice.
You would still go to practice?
Yes.
Do you have like any reasoning for that? Like, because I'm assuming James here, this James would the one we have interviewing, this James would not go to because I'm pretty sure they wouldn't want to risk COVID, right? Is that right?
Well, I'd only go to training if they said they'd host training, but yeah.
Okay, but even with the risk of COVID, you'd still go because you don't think it's that big of a deal, or you just take your chances. Omar, your microphone has been annihilated.
I feel like the training would take place somewhere more private and farther away from the public, and if someone on the team got it, then I guess I just isolate myself and get myself tested. I guess it's just
All right, so you're going on the assumption that the training is in a secluded place in a relatively safe environment. That is your assumption that the train takes place, right?
Lantau Island is a pretty less built up place, less dense than the rest of
Okay.
Hong Kong.
Okay, makes sense. All right. So
Do you
yeah,
think
okay.
they should? Do you think that they should like test players regularly, like maybe like once a month for the trainings just to make sure, or do you think that like it's safe enough for them to interact even without testing?
Well, I think if you go out in public a lot, you should get tested no matter what, every now and then, just to be on the safe side.
Mm.
But I feel like it is quite necessary. But I don't feel like if you didn't do it, you'd definitely pay the consequences like really severely. I just feel like you should do it, but if you don't do it, not that big of a deal.
Have you guys?
To be fair, it's really rare for someone in their teen years to get COVID anyway.
Right, because it might be something to do with the body or something, or just their lifestyle, I guess, in comparison to the other demographics. I want to ask both of you. Do you know any policies that your school might have been taking, or any policies that the government in Hong Kong has been taking, that has significantly affected your school life or just like the life of the citizens in general? No, nothing.
30% policy.
Is there no such policy? Because like here people under 18, I believe, and people over 65 aren't allowed to go out. And in Singapore, I think it's a maximum of 5 people that can meet each other. So is there anything similar like that in Hong Kong?
Oh, I was talking about that when I went to go play airsoft. I meant like the rule was at the time I think it was 4 people maximum.
4 people. Okay.
So is
This
there anything to
has
do with
changed by
school?
now.
Like has your let's say school administration in particular done anything for your school community, or they just follow the whatever the government like just tells them to do?
I guess when the first time we were allowed to go back to school, we would stay the whole day at school, but we would have to bring our own lunch, and the different year groups would be segregated to avoid people all bunching up together. And then more recently, in the last time I went to school, we were staying at school until our 4th lesson, right before our lunch break, and they'd give us a much longer lunch break to go home and also eat. So we wouldn't eat in public or at school. We just straight up avoid that, go straight home, and then have our last class at home.
That's a pretty interesting way to do it. But what about the people who like live really, really far? And like, let's say James, right? He takes like he takes like an hour, or like he said has travel time for an hour, right? Is that right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So then, how long is your lunch then?
I think it's
Our
2.5 hours.
Your lunch is 2.5 hours. Wow. Okay. Well,
No. Our timetable was changed to accommodate for travel time.
Yeah.
All right.
When we went back to school, but it's normally 1 hour. But when we go to school and then come back, it's 2 hours.
Okay. Well, then, do you have any friends or people you know that have traveled time for longer than the lunch period has allowed it for, and missed like at least or like been late to the classes, like the next classes? Not really.
Unless they took a detour, such as I almost was late for class a couple times because I went to go take a different vehicle or mode of transport home, and that took longer. But I didn't really have any. I don't know anyone that consistently was late. Maybe they were late once or twice because of some strange circumstance, but other than that, no.
I see.
In time, unless you will even have lunch before class starts. So.
Wait, I have forgotten if we asked you guys right. Well, we asked you earlier how how online school, if you guys thought it was more negative or positive, right? And you guys both agreed to be
Yeah.
more negative, right?
For education.
Yes, for in terms of education. Well, how did you guys cope with that then? Like, is there anything you guys did? I'm assuming you guys did something because it's a problem, right? And I guess humans are instinctively trying to find the most comfortable like path, right? So if you say like in education wise, like this is a problem, how would you guys remedy this?
I have no clue.
It's not that big of a problem where every single person in the school is now getting Fs. It's just mentally it's a problem to, you know, get off your butt and start revising, that kind of stuff, you know?
Yes,
It's bad for education, but it's not going to annihilate your grades.
Right,
so it's not something that I
So
really
in
tried to fix.
comparison to like let's say like an IB student from the year before COVID, right? Like last year, or maybe last year's not a good example, but 2 years ago or something like that. In comparison to an IB student there and an IB student now, like James is, how much at a disadvantage or deficiency or like do you think you guys are in comparison to those people? Omar can answer this too, I guess, but he just has to change this to a perspective of someone in his shoes, I guess, 2 years ago. Someone taking, I guess, IGCSE. And maybe James could relate to this because he would be in his shoes 2 years ago.
Yeah. I mean, to be fair though, you can't really see any impacts of IGCSE from last year since none of us did exams.
Okay, so then James, what's your thoughts on the IB student thing then?
Well, IB students from the year before?
Yeah, in comparison to a student who would be an IB without, the environment of COVID. How do you think you compare to them? I guess like in efficiency, education-wise.
Most IB students are lazy, so. But I think even so,
it sounds like Jelly LO could relate to this. Is there something there?
No.
No. I heard you snickering there. All right, buddy.
I mean, I'm not wrong, am I? Like, from my experience, most people are just kind of like vibing, you know? They're just sitting there, like, bro, I have an assignment due tomorrow, and then just playing games.
Yes.
That's the majority of IB students. I guarantee.
It's a good chunk. It's a good portion,
Would you say procrastinating is a major problem?
Would I say procrastinating what?
Is a major problem for IB students?
Yeah.
Do you think it has a bigger effect now with COVID, or is it didn't change?
The top three things that affect IB students besides COVID is sleep schedule, procrastination, and stress, which is derived from those other two.
And how much do you think COVID? Do you think COVID has added anything to those three that you just mentioned? Like
it's
stress,
definitely made procrastinating easier. So people are more inclined to procrastinate. But because of that, I think a lot of people are either less stressed because they can procrastinate more, or more stressed because they feel like they can't learn the content. Depends on the type of person you are.
All right. How about you personally? Which one do you think applies more to you?
My opinion, online school is kind of a nice breather, but for prolonged periods, it gets really exhausting, and I start to get stressed.
And what do you think, Omar? Do you agree with this, or do you have any like different thoughts?
I think I mostly agree with this.
So then, how about you personally? How do you think COVID changes your stress levels?
Since I'm a very STEM-oriented person, that means that involves a lot of practicals, like science. You do practicals, and also resistant materials. I don't know if you do that subject or not. It's resistant materials basically. I also take that class, and that's a lot of physical work to do. It's a lot of designing, making, stuff like that, and I can't really do that when I don't have the tools and the materials with me. So
So
Just
that,
makes
that,
it
that
harder.
applies, I guess, stress in learning, would you say? Because you don't have the materials to learn it, some subjects like that, like your resistant materials. You can't go there to school to have the resistant materials like in front of you and physically manipulate it. Yes.
it makes me feel like when I do my theory or knowledge-based questions and tests, I will be able to do that fine because I don't need those special things to do them. I can have them on my computer, and that's fine. But when it comes to being graded on my proficiency using these materials, practically using them, or knowing these tests,
Right.
or knowing the results of these tests, that's going to be harder.
Right. Because you can't like be there to like manipulate this stuff. You know what I mean, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
James, compared to from last year to this year, do you think the IB workload is more rigorous?
Oh, what is supposed to know? I wasn't in IB last year.
Yeah.
I mean-
But from your previous program to IB,
Oh,
do you
from
think
GCSE to IB.
yeah, from GCSE to IB? Yeah.
It's not really about the workload. It's about the level. It's about the amount of effort you need to put. Because IB is hard to wrap your head around compared to GCSE. So it's definitely nice having more time to be able to understand the concepts, but it's also really, really tough when you have to know every single nook and cranny of a subject.
So would you argue that the workload is the same?
It's the same but harder.
Right. Okay. So yeah. I see. So it's like the same workload, but you mean harder as in like more in depth, right?
It's more in depth and also just like a different plane of thinking, kind of.
I think we us as IB students too. I think we understand what you're meaning by that.
Yeah.
All right. So is there any like I guess stories in your IB like IB classes that have stood out to you that they wouldn't have done it in like let's say a situation without COVID, that maybe one of your teachers might have done something? Because I know here like well I think in a physics HL class decided to remove their exams from the final exams because of COVID or just because what was it LO? Was it because like it was difficult
Okay.
or what?
So, in our terms, according to our school at least, we're 2 weeks behind in IB. So what our class did, HL specifically, our teacher canceled the midterms and essentially gave everyone 100 for their midterm scores. But our midterms only affect 10% of our grades anyway, so more or less it didn't affect your grade as much unless it was borderline letter.
And this class wouldn't probably not have done it, right? If it wasn't for if there was no COVID, right? They probably wouldn't have done that.
Yeah. Yep.
Because we would have started on
probably-
time, right? Because we would have started on time instead of being like 2 weeks behind. So James or Omar, do you think has any of your teachers or is there any occurrences like that happened in yours?
There is a rumor, not a rumor, but there is a petition going around that they're trying to get like out there to not cancel, but to really reduce the difficulty of the GCSE exams. And in the petition, at least the one I saw this afternoon, it was talking about making them either open book and slash or also being more specific about what exactly is on the test and what students exactly need to know, just to make it easier for them so they know exactly what to practice for. It's not confirmed. It's not even been like properly released out. It's just something that a lot of year 10 students are beginning to spread around because they want their exams to be easier, of course, and open book. I don't think they should do that. I don't think they will do that, but I don't know.
Okay, well, James, is there anything for you, or do you not really remember anything, or is nothing stands out to you?
Nothing sounds out to me.
I see.
Yeah.
I think there was something I want to ask, but I can't really remember it right now. Lo, do you have anything else you want to ask them while I try to remember this? I'm going to use all brain power capacity.
Right. Omar, so you're gonna be taking IB in a few years, and presently you're in a call with 4 IB students. Do you have any questions or anything that you have just like going into IB?
Well, I know a lot of other. A majority of my online friends tend to be doing IB right now, or they're doing it about a year ago. So a lot of the questions I had have been answered really by them because I spent so much time talking to them. I had them answered. And I can also hear them talking about their experiences. So I guess I also.
How does that make you feel though? Are you then anxious or relieved, or are you? Do you feel like a sense of like, oh, at least I'm not them, or are you like?
No, if anything,
You should.
you feel a little bit of the opposite.
You're like,
I actually had this conversation with James.
You're scared.
I actually had this conversation with James. Turns out, a lot of the subjects I want to pick turn out to be the hardest ones to take. So that's just what James has told me. Apparently, the HLs I want to take and the SLs I want to take, just the combination of them makes it just much harder for myself.
Right. Okay. So then that's what you want to take, right? But
committing academic suicide, pretty much.
I think LO also has a lot of similarities with James's schedule, right? Isn't that right? Like you both share physics, right? And then you both share AA.
Yeah, and the only difference is I'm taking HL chemistry instead of his computer science.
Right. In terms of HLs, right? But SLs, you guys are also taking English Langlit, right? Both of you.
Yeah.
And what was the other one? Not James. You said history. What was the other one? The other SL? Spanish, right? Spanish.
Yeah.
So it's pretty similar.
Yeah, that's more or less pretty similar. Omar, the hard ones that. Right, go ahead. No, you go ahead.
I was just saying, for like, because I think you want to like take the same around like the same subjects as me and James. I think choosing your SLs wisely and choosing like a subject you're comfortable with will really like help a lot with your time management. Because like I chose Spanish AB Inicio, even though I was already in advanced Spanish last year and I was recommended to go to HL. So yeah,
HL.
Yeah. So
for real?
So I was just instead I just like chose like subjects that would put less stress on me while I'm already like handling all the the really hard subjects. So I guess that would be like my piece of advice.
So Omar, does that mean you're planning on keeping? You guys have a break period too, right? In your schedule.
A break period?
No, like
you
a
mean a
period
study
where
period?
Yeah, study hall.
Yeah, we do.
Yeah, so Omar, you're planning on keeping your study hall, right? You're not gonna like fill that with another subject.
No.
So you're pretty anxious for IB, it seems, right? Because of all these experiences that you heard, right? And all the subjects that you're planning on taking are like community defined to be the hardest subjects, right?
Yes.
Is there any subject in particular out of those hardest subjects that you feel like bring the most amount of pressure to you?
Chemistry and math.
Which math are you planning on taking?
I have no clue.
So it's just anyone that you feel like. Anyone you
Engineering is
feel
your,
like.
like,
I
your
think I
goal.
think I think the only question I might have is like I do not know like the stark differences between the different math types I could take.
Well, do you guys want to fill them in, Elo and James, and FF?
Sorry, the question again.
The difference
Okay.
between the two math branches, AA and AI.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes, yeah, it's mostly
just
AA
a
here,
general
so.
view, yeah. Just a general view of it is the mark scheme for A and AI is okay. AI is more like analytical and you're more hands-on with your calculator. AA, their mark scheme comes from a lot of like physical working, like showing your solutions to your equations, and we have parts in the exam. I think paper one, I believe, where it's actually non-calculator, while AI is has
Or full
calculator.
calculator, yeah.
And they consider AA more traditional math for math lovers, and
Yeah.
and if you're planning to go in the engineering field, AA would be the more suitable choice as they cover things like calculus more in depth, which is like really expected for in the engineering field.
The thing is that with AA, it's more like straightforward. Solve this problem. Am I correct?
Yeah.
Yeah, AI, you just like you look at the question. You have to figure out what it's asking for. It's like
Mm.
the math is like straightforward. Like you just put it in the calculator. But then like the real question is like, what's it asking for, right? AKE. All right.
So Omar, with this in mind, what do you plan on taking then? Has this like given you some insight or like suggestive knowledge and advice to which one you would pick?
Also, AI. If you're not fluent in English, good luck.
Yep. So Omar, is there a side you're more lenient to, AI or AA?
I'm sorry, your mic has been devastated
I'm
by.
thinking more AA.
More
AA.
AA. Do you think is that just because of the career choice, the planned career choice?
That and also the thing you said about the structure of the questions.
Yeah.
Okay.
I like very straightforward questions. It gives me more time to actually spend on the math instead of trying to read it and understand it.
That's understandable. James, is there any advice you want to give as an AAHL student as well?
Choose AI.
What? Oh,
Choose AI.
Yes.
Wait, what?
Wait, what?
No, his advice, James' advice was choose
Oh,
AI.
pick AI.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Choose AI,
yeah.
man.
If you don't like math, go to AI.
Yeah. If you like math, go AAHL. If you don't like math, do AI.
What's it? I think he liked math.
I like math, but I'm slowly starting to dislike math.
Can I take like a middle ground where I could take SLAA?
SLAA, yeah, that's a good one.
That's all very acceptable. Yeah. In terms of content, maybe you're just not going as much in depth with calculus, because looking at our SL class right now, I think they're pretty much covering everything we're doing, except they're maybe just one unit behind. So I'm pretty sure the middle ground would be fine.
Pretty much just faster or slower, I'm guessing. Yeah. You know, I don't know how to do algebra.
Food.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You love AA.
Oh yeah, I was thinking of going to HLA.
So that's the end of this mini podcast episode, I guess. We'll just have to. Thanks for being here, Omar and James. Maybe we'll see you again another time. Hopefully, right?
Stay tuned for more episodes.
Yeah. All right. Thank you for tuning in to the first episode, and we'll see you next time. Bye bye.